Welcome back to the Nate Wenke Podcast, and today I got on Logan Carnes. Thanks for coming on, Logan.
Hey, thank you for the opportunity, Nate. Appreciate it.
For sure, dude, for sure. Yeah, so we were talking before this, and I think you found me through talking to Chase, and Chase does landscaping, and you do junk removal. You want to kind of talk about, like, what'd you do? How'd you get into it? You know, give me some background here.
All right, so to be, we'll go back a little bit, quite a bit. I'm 28 years old, so back in the early teenage days, what got me into business was what most people don't get into business doing. It was definitely some illegal activities that took me down some crazy paths. So as a young age, I was making quite a bit of money, and it definitely opened my eyes to what's possible. And even then, I always had like a side job or was doing some side hustles because to try to keep the heat off, but also to try to figure out the business stuff. Long story short, it came to a crash, again in ways that most people would never expect, and ended up having my house raided. And it was super crazy, my man. So from there, ended up having like a 2-year period where I was lawyers and court back and forth. It all came down to having a good lawyer. He ended up allowing me to, or getting me to the point where we could literally just pay a fine and have the thing dropped. And at this point, I lived in West Virginia. And then eventually, when this got dropped, I did move to Florida, and then kind of this whole journey started. When I got raided, I actually started a lawn care business myself. That was kind of like what started from there. I was like, okay, what am I going to do next? So I did that for 3 years. I got super burnt out because I didn't take the time to learn as much as I should have. And I ended up getting burnt out on the lawn mowing side, even though the 3rd year I was trying to get to the landscaping side, and trying to get into the bigger jobs. In hindsight, looking back, if I just would have kept at it and just dealt with, the burnout and pushed through it, I probably would have made it way back then. But it was young, dumb, not thinking through it, and just really being like, I can't do this anymore, when, I should have just stayed doing it.
Real quick, how old were you when you started the lawn care and then ended up stopping?
So 19, and then 22-ish is when I ended up getting out of it. And I actually did sell the business. I didn't make tons of money, but I sold the route, and then all the equipment, so I came out on a positive.
Okay. And then, so from there, sold the business. What was the process like to where you are now?
So shortly after that, we end up, I'm able to move to Florida. Everything is dropped in the past. And then from there, I really spent, the last 3.5, 4 years trying to figure out what it was that made me want to get there. I've always had big ambitions and big dreams. I've tried flipping cars, mowing grass again down here, power washing. I've literally tried just about every side hustle. And then finally I came up on the junk removal just recently, probably about 8-9 months ago.
Okay. So you've been around the block there.
For
done
sure.
Some lawn care, done some power washing. Okay. Okay, I do want to hear more about the junk removal, but before we kind of leave behind, your, let's call it your origin story, to put a name to it. Okay, so in some rough spots when you were a teenager, right?
Yeah.
Got good lawyer, kind of got out of that for the most part.
Correct.
Was into lawn care. What was, all of this is a learning experience, right? So this whole time, you're taking these lessons. What do you think the biggest lesson / takeaway from your, let's just call it your legal trouble, all of that? What do you think what was your biggest takeaway from all that?
To be completely honest, it's just not worth it. It definitely opened my eyes to what's possible out there. But being the type of person that I am, I know I would have figured out a different way regardless. And so for anybody out there that may be listening that's in that field, it's not worth looking over your shoulder every day. And eventually that day will come. It's going to happen unless you get out. And that's definitely what you want to do, is get the hell out.
Okay. Yeah. No, I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. It's It makes total sense. So okay, and then so you got into lawn care, and was that just kind of like, did you know a guy? Were you interested in doing it? What kind of got you into that?
So the the final thing that'll take you back to that was I really wanted to get out of the drug dealing like that same year. Like I was going to do it for one final year and be done with it and
Yep.
save up enough money and then figure out a business to go into. So I opened up the lawn care business to launder some money, so I could actually
Yep.
have it legally. And then I got raided, and it's just, it was meant to be. I had no choice but to go full into the lawn care now.
Okay. Yep. So you hit a low point then after you got into lawn care, and you said it was about 2.5, 3 years in. What was that low point like? You just were working too much stress, too many headaches. Kind of describe that moment for me.
Because I chose not to take advantage of YouTube University and buy courses and learn from people that are in better spots. Because again, I just wasn't in that type of mind space yet. I really couldn't figure out how to manage so many lawns. I did get up to like 70, 80 lawns at one point, and I could not figure out how when it would, like we had weeks where it rained for, literally a week straight. And so it's like
Yeah.
I'm 80 lawns behind, and I don't know how, and I didn't have it on a system where they were all weekly. So I had some that were bi-weekly and some that were even every 10 days, and it was just a terrible schedule. So
Yeah.
trying to catch up on everything, it drove me crazy for sure. And then I made a mistake one year going to the beach and leaving the business in charge of, a couple employees that I thought knew how to run it and did not. And so that's obviously falls back on me not being a good leader and trainer at the time. And so that stressed me out. And literally every day it was just me getting calls, me getting complaints. And from there, year 3, I was just so burnt out from all of that combination. It really drove me over the edge.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. Yeah, when you got those crazy schedules, you're not consistent. You got 10 days, then you got 2 weeks, then you got a week, and then you get a week of rain. I mean, that combination is a hard combination to overcome. And no, it makes perfect sense. So then you ended up moving down to Florida. And was the move to Florida, was that kind of like, you know what, I want a clean slate, I want to start over?
Yes,
Or
sir.
did you have family down here? So yeah, kind of describe what was going on there.
So it was really just an escape. I lived in West Virginia my whole life, and I definitely think that anything you want in life, you definitely have to go and get it. And being in a poorer, for lack of terms, area, you don't have as many business-like people that are trying to be entrepreneurs. Everybody just wants to go to the bar and drink, and that's kind of the trap that I was in too with lawn care. So I was like thinking I was balling and just wasting money like an idiot. And it took so many of these hard lessons to get me to where I'm at, so I wouldn't change it for the world. I just wish I would have, in hindsight, been smarter and learned these lessons faster.
Yeah, and that is that interesting thing, and I talked about this with Chase, about this weird relationship that we have with struggle and tragedy and hard times. It's like, again, you don't want people, you don't look at friends and family and say, you know what, I want you to go through a hard time. That's not that's never the goal, that's never the objective. And yet when you look back at those experiences, those were almost always the most powerful learning experiences and times where you actually grew as a person the most. But, how much, I kind of ask myself, like, okay, how much of that is good, necessary, baked into the cake, like you're going to go through struggle, but then also how much can you use YouTube University and use resources around you to kind of like bypass some of those more easy mistakes. And from what it sounds like, you didn't necessarily use those resources like you could versus maybe how you are now. And yeah, what do you think about that whole, like, struggling through things? What do you think about that analysis?
Literally, I completely agree, my man. It's
Yeah.
like that people say, learn from other people's mistakes so you don't have to, but as humans, we're so stubborn. I feel like unless we actually feel the pain, we're just going to end up doing it anyways. So I think going through the process, and again, some people learn faster than others. Some people are in different situations, so you can't really compare those two. But I definitely feel like if you have the opportunity or you have the thought of trying to better yourself and better your life, you definitely need to, or I recommend trying to get around people that are more like-minded and that can teach you these things faster, so you don't necessarily have to go through every single failure or lesson that other people have. You can definitely skip some steps for sure.
Yeah, and sometimes it's good to skip some steps, but
Agreed.
I hear you. Okay. Yep, so you're down in Florida, kind of a reset, new clean slate, and then, okay, describe the process to finally end up where you're at right now in terms of junk removal. It sounds like you started a couple different side hustles, you kind of experimenting a little bit. Describe that for me.
So my big thing, one thing I can definitely say as far as what am learning now that I have been good at, I just wasn't able to put together all the pieces, is making content. So pretty much anything I do, I can make content. And so for the longest time, so this whole period and up until now, it was, how can I try to be famous type stuff, So it's like doing TikTok and all the side hustles, filming them, making funny videos, making POV text videos, making how-to videos, teaching people different things, all along the way, when I first moved down, on TikTok, spin art was a big thing, and I actually became like a big spin artist or whatever, doing painting and stuff on TikTok. Super cringe, but all the videos are still up there, and that's what got a huge following for me. Then I started to switch over into, I tried car flipping, I tried day trading. I've definitely made a lot of money, and I've lost a lot of money, so I'm not afraid to admit that. And then along the way, it was still just trying to figure out what I actually wanted to do long term, because even with car flipping, I made a lot of money, but there was a couple times where it came real close, like buying some bad deals, because I just know nothing about cars. So I was more into buy something that's decent and just make it look better, and then you can, increase the value and just do quick flips. So if something had actual problems, I almost screwed myself a couple times on something like that. And then from there, I finally landed, about 7 months ago, just listening, and finally thought about the idea of junk removal. I was listening to a podcast with Ryan Pineda, and he was interviewing Kyle Landwehr. And so he's a 23-year-old now, sold his junk removal company, and got up to doing about $1.5 million in revenue in a year. So I definitely recommend you reaching out to him and getting him on as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and then from there, I was like, I kind of just put my foot in the ground. I was like, this is what I want to do, And so within a week or two, we figured out some things and went and got approved for a dump trailer just so we could get started. Didn't even have a truck to pull it. We were just going to U-Haul it. And so we literally forced ourselves into a debt situation to where we how we're going to pay for the trailer. We have no choice now. So pulled the trigger, got into it, and then ever since, we've been growing, and it's been a great learning experience. Same thing with junk removal. Built up a decent following, nothing super crazy, but 1,500 followers on TikTok, 600 on Instagram. Have had several viral videos with the junk removal, just taking people along daily vlogs. How much would you charge for this? Giving tips on marketing and how to get your leads going when you're on a low budget and stuff like that. So it's been a great experience so far.
Huh. No, that's cool, man. That's really cool. What do you think was the key characteristic of junk removal that made you decide, I'm going to stick with this, at least for now? You never know what the future's going to bring. Which is
we will move into the next thing too, because I already do have a bigger vision for this company.
Okay.
And I want to definitely talk about some details on about that, just when it comes to scaling and growing a company. But
Sure.
I definitely, being completely honest, it's you don't have to, we're in the generation now where you don't have to work hard to make money. It's and I feel like that's always been the case, but it's just always been taught for the lower middle class. You have to work hard, work your 9 to 5 or work overtime, work 80 hours a week. And I just don't think that's the way. And my biggest thing is truly to be financially free. Whatever that means to different people is up to them. But I view that as being you have money coming in at all times. You never have to worry about your bills. You never have to worry about if you can afford something. If you want to swipe it, you're good. That's true financial freedom. If you want to just go to another country just because you decide to right now, you can do that. And so I'm trying to get to the point of true freedom. And I just feel like to do that, all these millionaires and billionaires, you see them on TikTok, and of course some of them can definitely be faking it, but you don't see them working 9 to 5 and stressing all the time. And so I just needed to find a different alternative. And when I listened to that podcast, it was about an hour and a half long. He explained everything from start to finish, starting it at 20 and basically having it fully automated by 22, and then sold it at 23. And you have to work those 12-hour days when you're first starting out. But once you start getting your employees and figuring out your systems and having things in place, it's super easy to scale. And as long as the phone's always ringing, the money's pretty endless. So.
Okay, yeah. So you hit on a number of interesting points there. So the whole work hard thing. I want to elaborate on this because I think it's a little bit more complicated than you don't have to work hard. And you just pointed out, there's a good chance if you want to grow a business, if you want to be an entrepreneur, especially for that first period of time, however long that is, 6 months, a year, 2 year, whatever it takes to get it to the point where you can get some competent people in the door and actually have them help you put in place systems, run the company. But you are going to have to, in my opinion, work hard, especially at the beginning. Yes. And hopefully work smarter too. And we talked about that smarter piece, which is important, to actually get it going. But what I think you're touching on, and I'll bring this in because I think it's pretty interesting. Have you heard of the book, The 4-Hour Work Week?
Yes.
Have you heard of that?
Yes.
Yeah. So Tim Ferriss, brilliant guy. I actually just got done with that book, and it was recommended by one of my good friends. And he basically made a book form case for what you just said. Kind of like there is a way, and he dubs these people the new rich, I guess is what his term for them. But people that aren't necessarily multi-millionaire, billionaire type people, but they're people that have put in place systems and processes to automate away a lot of the busy work that they had been doing before to generate relatively passive income that provides financial freedom and allows you to take that trip to Costa Rica for, a month if you want to, that kind of thing. And it kind of sounds like that is kind of the direction that you're trying to push into. What would you say is your current, right now, what are you doing to implement those systems, those automations? What's going on right now?
So right now we are just getting our website professionally designed. We definitely, bootstrapped everything from the start and just made sure we had everything up and running, social media, everything good to go. But from there, we just got just paid to have our website 100% redone. So we're going to have that good to go on July 1st. We're going to start Google Ads, putting about $1,900 into it a month, just to start, see where we get from. And then from there, we plan. So I have, you can't see it, but up on my wall, I basically have a list every month of what our goals are and what we're trying to hit. This month, we should be on track to hit about 20K. Next month, we're trying to hit 25 to 30, depending on Google Ads, because the first 3 to 6 months, it can definitely be, back and forth. You might break even, but after you start getting your SEO and getting the dominance in the area, that's when you start really making the good money. So by September, by August, we're wanting to have a new truck, have it fully wrapped, ready to go. And then by September, we are wanting to have our first employee hired and ready to go. We have a bunch of systems that we're ready to start training on, but we're still getting jobs on the daily basis that we are still learning on, that are completely new to us, because there's so many different factors of junk removal that every job can be different, especially when you're dealing with people, a lot of hoarder evictions. Some people can be clean hoarders and some people can be so far to the left, you wouldn't imagine some of the things we've seen. So it's hard to figure out the right processes to be able to keep employees from not quitting when you get to those situations. I mean, they can be crazy.
Okay. You say we. Are you working with someone else?
So right now it's me and my partner. So
yep.
Yeah. So it's someone that I've known since 13. We definitely have had a like mind ever since, and we actually moved together from West Virginia to Florida, just so we could both reset and everything. So we basically together. Been a while.
Gotcha. Okay. I figured. I just was like, we. I'm like, okay. So there is another person.
Yeah, 100%. Cool. Yeah. If I would definitely have hired an employee if I didn't have a partner for sure by now, for sure.
Yeah, it's hard to put everything on your own shoulders. So no,
Yes.
that's cool. That's cool. So I'll admit I'm pretty. I don't know a ton about junk removal. I mean, I can imagine some of the logistics and whatnot, but I imagine one of the bigger problems is lead generation. Because for us, like in landscaping, like, you know, we'll get a bigger job and we're on it for a week or two, you know, like depending on how big it is. And, you know, we have some smaller jobs too that are a day or two, but it's, and then even with mowing, on the mowing side of things, which I'm getting away from, let's say, but I have yet to just toss away. You know, you get a contract for a season, you're good for 8 months, effectively speaking. So what do you do in terms of, you're talking about Google ads, what do you do right now for like advertising? How do you get your leads? What's going on there?
So we do all of the bootstrap methods. So we're on actually 6 different social media platforms, and we try to post twice a day. There are a couple days, you know, we might only post once, but we definitely post once regardless, no matter what. And then we post in Facebook buy and sell groups 10 to 20 times a day. That's a guaranteed every time. And then we do, if the phone's not ringing, we are putting out yard signs, door hangers. Sticky notes are a great thing. I had a video that did kind of well. Getting like 3x5 sticky notes, so that way you can get a book for like $3, and so you can literally get like 2,000, you know, pieces of paper pretty much with your information, like it would be a business card or a door hanger. And instead of, you know, having to spend so much starting out the gate, you can literally just put sticky notes on people's doors, and they go a long way. So sticky notes, right to the point, just says your business name, junk removal, a couple small things what you do, phone number real big. And then literally all like local groups, entrepreneur groups. We're about to be presenting next month. Chamber of Commerce. We do volunteer work. We just finished a job 2 days ago where we worked with the Red Cross in our area. Anything you can do to get your name out there. And then most importantly, I missed the thing nobody wants to do is cold calling and door knocking. So door knocking, you can literally make money today. And so I made, just because I want people to get free as well and find a way, you know, junk removal I feel like is a great thing. It doesn't take too much to get started. And as you're learning it, you can definitely figure out if you want to do it long term, but it's a great way to start making some money right now. And so I made like a small little PDF course. It's like 14 pages, just for people to download it and figure out if it's something they want to do, but so they can start making some money. And you can do 2 jobs for, you know, $500, and that's your paycheck. You know, if you only want to do 2 jobs, congrats, you know, now you don't have to work a 9 to 5. But for the people that really want to scale it, you can literally start door knocking today and make money same day, make $1,000 a day if you hit enough doors. You know, it just depends on your sales skill, but the more you do it, the better you're going to get.
Okay. Yep. So you're definitely in a lot of different areas in terms of advertising. Okay. Yeah. Cool. How much of your time do you think you spend on advertising, would you say?
Probably 30% right now.
Okay. Yeah. And I imagine that, oh, sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I imagine that, so that's very different than me, for example. Although I guess I somewhat take that back. Nowadays, I spend more time in the estimating, advertising side of things. But that's just an interesting difference in terms of business models. Now, a lot of that's probably fairly low cost, I would imagine. Yeah. Do you know what percentage of your revenue on a given month you're spending on advertising? It's fine if you don't, I'm just curious.
Right now, probably around 10 to 15%. But when we get into Google Ads, that'll definitely take it up to probably 25%.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but from a scalability perspective, you're probably, you know, looking at the numbers and saying, you know, this investment now in Google Ads is going to pay off in the end. And it sounds like you're on the right track in terms of, like, you know, when you redesign your website and then focus on SEO, that's like a long-term investment in generating leads. Because at one point, if you have a good website and you have good SEO, you end up getting more organic leads because you just get automatically ranked higher on Google, higher on different platforms, etc. So sounds like definitely a smart strategy. Are you, like right now in terms of finances, debt, whatnot, are you taking on a lot of debt right now? It sounds like you're in a growth phase. So what's going on there?
So we're not yet, but we are about to. So all the money that we've been in business, you know, unofficially since November last year. We've officially been in business since the 18th of January this year. So only, you know, not even 6 months fully yet. and we're already hitting, high figure, 4-figure months. We broke 5 figures twice. So we've had two massive jobs. One was like a $6,000 job cleaning out a forest. It was a lot of work. Should have been, or my bad, I said that wrong. It was a $4,500 job. It should have been 6,000. Is what I meant to say. So that's where we kind of cut ourselves short. But that was one of the biggest jobs we've done. And then we've done a lot of like $1,500, $2,000 jobs where you're just cleaning out people's garages, or like people are moving out their condos and stuff like that.
Okay. What kind of like junk will you guys take? Is there stuff that you won't take? What does that look like?
So our landfill here in Florida in Volusia County, as a business, they'll let you dispose of like 4 tires for free without having to pay a different fee, and they'll let you dispose of like a couple cans of paint, nothing crazy. The majority of all toxic and hazardous stuff we really can't take. If someone has a garage with 30 paint cans, it's like we can't really take something like that. We can take up to about 6, and you can take them to like Sherwin-Williams or paint stores, and they'll normally recycle them for free. And then car batteries, pretty much Advanced Auto or any battery store will also take those as well. So we can take a little bit of those. We won't take tons of tires, but besides that, anything goes after that.
Okay. What do you think the bulk of your type of junk is that you take?
Furniture, for sure.
Furniture. Okay.
100%.
Okay. And does like the landfill, do they charge by the yard essentially?
So we're pretty lucky here in Florida. I know when you go up north, they start charging separately for appliances or for mattresses. We're good here in Florida. They literally have a flat rate. So if it's just yard debris, I'm not sure what it's like if you guys have to deal with that, getting rid of a lot of landscaping yard debris. It's $21 a ton. So it's super cheap here in Florida to get rid of that, because they use that to cover up all the trash and, build the landfill. And so as you go up into different materials, like tires are like $146 a ton. So if you have a lot of tires, that's why we don't take them. It's a real hassle to deal with. But even for construction debris and normal household furniture, it's a flat rate, and it is $28 a ton right now. In a month, it's going to be going up to $36 a ton, but still super affordable.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, that's pretty good pricing. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, you can fill up like a 26-foot box truck, because we've done some big jobs where we just were like, we're just going to rent the box truck and do it in all one big load. And we filled up several times a big 26-footer, and the most we ever paid was $65. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
that's pretty.
As long as you're not doing concrete, it's pretty affordable. It's pretty cheap. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I guess I gotta move down to Florida now, man. That's pretty good. That's pretty good there. Okay. Cool. So another question, how far ahead are you in terms of like booking jobs? Are you like a day, a week, 2 weeks? What's the typical time to completion?
Right now, just because until we get the Google Ads and the SEO really going, we're probably about a day ahead, but even then we'll have short half days. But again, just doing, if you happen to only have one job, but it's a $500 job and you knock it out in 2 hours, it's really good money. It's going to be great when the phone's ringing all the time. And so when we get to the point of the Google Ads and the SEO, and we start hiring employees, everything else, the ground marketing and all that's not going to stop. We're just going to figure out different alternatives like EDDM, which is every direct door mail. So you run that directly through the United States Post Office, and you can literally send out thousands and thousands of postcards in a single day or week.
Okay. Cool. Okay. What would you say? So you mentioned, we'll go let's do a little broader view here. So 4-Hour Work Week. Have you read Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki?
Yeah, I love that.
Classic. Yep.
We cleared out a garage like 2 days ago, and this guy literally had that book, like an old copy. I was like, look at this, man. It's actually in one of the TikToks. And I was like, this is awesome.
Yeah. To any entrepreneur or anyone that's like listening that's interested in getting into any kind of side hustle, read Rich Dad Poor Dad. It's probably the most famous, but I think for a good reason in terms of the entrepreneurial handbook, kind of realm. It kind of we could talk about it for a second. Like it kind of for me, like it flipped my concept of good debt and bad debt.
Yep.
And like this idea of, he likes to use the term the rat race. The idea of that 9 to 5 every day, and your 2 weeks of vacation every year, and he likes to just tear that to shreds, which I thought was great. But that was, I think the biggest thing for me with that book was the good debt, bad debt, and just kind of flipping this idea of like, if you have debt on assets that are generating you income through a business entity, that's good debt. That there's a big difference between that and a car payment, to get to work on a car that's, $20,000 more than what you need.
Yeah.
There's
exactly.
a credit card debt, or, there's these massive differences. So, and one thing, is a little bit tangential here, but you mentioned that when you started the junk removal, you had to take out, essentially a loan for the trailer that, and you didn't really have, revenue necessarily coming in yet. What's interesting about debt, especially debt that it's weird. You go into debt on something that, a lot of people would tell you like, don't go into debt on this. And yet the fact that you're in debt on something like that forces you to work at it and actually improve. It's one of those like kind of scary motivators, but sometimes it just propels you. And I've had that experience. Do you think you had that experience when you first got that loan?
100%. I will say the best thing about it was we had decent credit, so we were able to get it with $0 out the door. So we basically got an $8,000 trailer for free for a month. So it was a little bit off the chest, being able to do that. And then even the monthly payment, we were able to get it down to $400. So it's not a super crazy payment. So we were like, worst case scenario, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, there's always money to be made when you're door knocking, and so that's what we've always been doing. If the phone's not ringing, if you're not putting out marketing or signs, you're door knocking, you're doing something, So we knew we could make it happen no matter what.
Yep. And I mean, you just mentioned like you could be door knocking and you can go knock on a door and there's a $500 job. You get that done in 2 hours. That's your monthly payment.
Yeah.
And it seems scary, $8,000 trailer, and this is not me saying people go be stupid, but like, it's very possible. And when you put that kind of debt, when you put that pressure on you that propels you in a positive direction, it's crazy what you can do. You'll open up whole new areas of your life that you're like, I didn't know I could door knock. I didn't know I could make a sale.
Yeah.
But suddenly when that pressure's on you, man, you're gonna do it. And I've done a lot of door knocking in my time, and man, it's an interesting experience, but it's a good learning experience too. But
100%. I think especially because there's a lot of like real young people that are hitting me up like, how can I get started with junk removal?
Yeah.
And that's why that's like the biggest thing that I say in there. It's like you can literally make money today for free. You can get your leads. You can literally door knock. You can get the leads, line them up all week, and then on Friday and Saturday, rent you a damn U-Haul, line them up, and get them all taken care of, And then from there, you start stacking up a little bit, and you can end up getting your own truck or your own trailer or whatever you want to do. And so I just feel like people need to take that leap, That's the first thing. So if you got a pickup truck, whatever you want to do, and you're trying to escape the 9 to 5, just go knock on some doors, Haul Miss Jones's, trash can out to the driveway if you got to for $10. Whatever you got to do to start stacking up some bread. But the goal is to definitely eventually get to the point where you build yourself up as a brand. You're legit. You have insurance, of course, and you're able to be that what other junk removal companies look to in your area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, to kind of be that dominant presence in the area in a positive way. Like you've been around a while, you're established, people trust you, you do good work, and you got leads coming in. I mean, that's huge. So you see I assume the next couple months here is kind of a growth phase. You're eventually going to try and get some employees in the door. What do you think, the biggest challenge of the next 6 months is going to be? If you had to project, what do you think your biggest challenge is going to be?
Honestly, training and managing employees, just because I haven't done it since I did it back in the day. But I know I've grown so much since then. I definitely know I have the ability and the capability to make it happen. I mean, I didn't even know what SOPs were when I had lawn care. I didn't even know what procedures were. It was literally just like basically hiring a buddy, paying them cash. Didn't ever, like, I had 2 employees at one point, but I never had anybody on like payroll. So even myself, I was doing like owner's draws. Like, I really just didn't know a lot back then. And so I think I really needed, all of those life lessons up to here and the time span of learning, really getting into finance and learning all of these books, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, just all of these different books and following mentors like Ty Lopez, Gary Vaynerchuk, Grant Cardone, people like that have really like turned my life around from being somebody that I was making money selling drugs, but I was also doing drugs, and I was not in the right, space that I am now. I wasn't concerned about health and living as long as I want to live too, and, really looking at my future and what do I want to leave behind, when I do finally leave this earth.
Mm-hmm. No, that's huge. Who'd you say your biggest financial mentor has been?
Through the years, I'd say the person I've listened to the most as far as like finance wise has probably been Grant Cardone, 100%.
Yep. Okay. Yep. He, man, he'll change your perspective too. That guy's,
yep. Just the other day he said something, it was one of his old, now he's like, cause he's, super busy, he'll put some of his old seminars or some of his stuff from, Cardone University as like a podcast. And so he did this one, and it was just talking about being, unreasonable, and that really, I'd never heard it before, and I've heard him say that, but the way he said it there, even now, I heard it like last week, and it was like, people don't want you to door knock. It's like, oh, I'm knocking again. It's like, I don't care. You're giving me something. It's like, I'm knocking till the cops come, dog.
I ain't gonna stop.
Yeah. Unreasonable. So I ain't trying to live a freaking average life. So, and Alex Hormozy recently, I've fallen in to listen to a lot of him, and a lot of what he says too. It's like he's not trying to be average, so why would he do average things, and go by what average people say. And so that's really growing on me. And even with his book, $100 Million Offers, that inspired me to do the free course. And then over time, I'm going to build out a big course as I continue to learn and actually scale my business to where I want it to be. Then I'll be able to also do a coaching program and be able to teach others how to do the same.
Heck yeah. Okay. Yeah, talk about that course for a bit. So, like, you had some requests from people that were like, hey, love what you're doing. Can you give me some advice, that kind of stuff? And then you kind of said, you know what, let me sit down and, like, write this out. Is that kind of what happened? Talk to me about that.
Yeah. So, like I said, I've always been really good at figuring out. So let me change those words. I've always been good at creating content. I've not been good at figuring out how to get the views, and the biggest reason for that, which again, in hindsight, looking back, it's like when I was doing spin art, I was niched down, and that's why my account grew. And I have a TikTok. If you look up my name, I have like 4 TikToks, and one has right under 8,000, one has slightly over 100,000, and both of those are dead accounts now. Like, I could post a video, 100 views, they're dead.
Wow.
So I started a new one, and within 60 days, it's only been like 51 days. I just looked at the thing, and I've done 5.1 million views on TikTok with a new account, and I'm at almost 6,000 followers. Like, I'm already, if I looked at it, hopefully I've hit 3,000 on Instagram. So I've literally gained 2,500 on Instagram in the past week and a half, 10 days. It's been crazy.
Wow. Okay.
I've figured out a way that triggers people emotionally to either get mad because they know they're missing out, get mad because they don't understand business, and they'll be like, you're a scam, you're just putting words on the screen, or get people triggered to the point which is the majority of people, that they're like, I want to escape this 9 to 5. Like, this seems way easier. And I'll let people know, I'm like, it's hard work, but you can, in 5 years, you could be a millionaire. Like, and that's the facts. Like, anybody can, in 5 years, can do that. And I wish I would have had somebody, teaching me back then, or paid attention more. And so I just want people to escape that. I can't express that enough. And so I had, within it was 6-7 days into the new TikTok account, and I had a video literally and it was junk removal. So I was doing POV text, just like ones that were kind of funny, just like trying different stuff out. And then one of them, I was like, let me make a junk removal one. And it was like literally a silly video, but it was like, just made $100 in 10 minutes removing 2 beds out of an apartment. It took 10 minutes. What the fuck are you doing? But I put like, WTF, what are you doing? And people are like, it literally triggered people so crazily to where,
Yep.
it blew up, and it was wild, So I was like, people were in the comments, everybody was asking, how do I do it? Can you teach me? Blah, blah, blah. And from there, I've made a lot of informational videos on TikTok, a lot of text videos, just explaining that, but having to type out the same thing over and over and people asking the same question to where it's like, I've already made a video response once. I don't want to make 20 more of the same thing. I was like, I'm just going to make a free little PDF course. Sat down one day, took me like 5 hours, and just literally explained from start to finish, if you literally are a hustler, and even if you don't have a pickup truck, but if you do have a pickup truck or a family or friend with a trailer or anything, but even if you don't have those, I literally have a list of where you can rent things, how much it costs on average, what you can rent from them. So U-Haul is the obvious. Sunbelt Rentals is where you can rent trailers and stuff, and then there's different truck companies you can rent from. And then from there, I just break down the door knocking, how you can post on social media, do the buy and sells, and get leads from there for free. And basically how you can literally, if you really want money today, you can literally go and get it today,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. Okay. Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So now are you pretty much exclusively posting junk removal content, like what you're doing these days?
And that's literally what blew up my account. So I was just looking at it 10 days ago, and like, for me, I was looking at today, and I looked at the date, and on May 28th, I made a video where it was like a Instagram trend, and it was like one of those ones where it's like, nobody cares about this, you doing this in quotes, and then it like shows a couple like screenshots or flashbacks of different things of you doing it, and then it goes to your follower count, and it's like, normally like a low amount, and it's like 300 and some kings and queens do or something like that, like showing support for your followers. And just 10 days ago I had 340, and just getting like 10 or 20 a day when I started posting junk removal content was like crazy to me, because I've never grown like ever on Instagram. I've always seen it to be like the hardest one, and get like 5 followers and half of them are spam, and then the 5 followers are gone the next day, and it's just, it was always like that. So what I can definitely say for everybody that ends up listening is like, if you niche down, even if that's not what you want to do long term, find something you're passionate about and niche down and build that community within that, and then as you grow that, you can slowly put in a piece. Like, I like to skateboard, so you could slowly throw in a skateboard clip here. And then if you want to do just skateboarding over the course of the next 6 months, slowly make it into that, instead of just going, all right, no more junk removal, all skateboarding. And I had that issue with my, spin art account. From just one day, I was like, I'm done. I quit doing paintings. This is cringe as fuck. I'm over looking stupid on the internet and doing this just for views. And literally instantly the next day was like trying to do different shit, and people just weren't rocking with it. They were following me for spin art, nothing else. And then the same thing with my other 8,000 account was just like, I really like to give my opinion on everything, but nobody gives a fuck when, it's not targeted towards something. So when I started finally doing junk removal, literally in the past month, everything has just blown up. So I definitely recommend niching down and finding something you're passionate about and just going full throttle with it.
No, that's huge. That's huge. Cool to see that you kind of found your niche. So I think a lot of people will spend some time like, man, I'm interested in all these things. This is probably my problem, actually. I have so many different things. Yes, I was talking about how my one of my struggles is I'm so interested in a ton of different topics that I think that I end up talking about like AI or something, and then you get a particular crowd that likes AI, and then I go talk about fitness or genetics or whatever, and it's kind of like, I don't know if I'm willing. It's part of the, I guess you could say it's kind of part of the reality of a podcast that's interviewing a number of different people.
Yeah.
It's hard to stay niche because I'm interested in so many different things. But we all kind of have different goals too. And this started for me as just a self-improvement thing. And maybe at one point I'll kind of find my niche and kind of narrow it down. But so far I'm liking interviewing different people. So
I think
but that's cool to hear. Oh, go.
I was gonna say, I think podcasting itself, that is your niche. That should be expected. The majority. It doesn't matter what podcast I've listened to. Even Grant Cardone, he'll just randomly start talking about some bullshit sometimes. So it's like, I think that's that. As long as people know what they're getting into, like you have podcasts in your Instagram name, so people know it's like, okay, this is a podcast. People are going to be talking. There might be different subjects, and there's going to be multiple people's points that I'll hear and get to decide, who I agree with, back and forth, whatever. But the fact that it is a podcast itself, I feel like that in itself, is its own niche, and so it's just like. It would be like on your landscaping page, I'm not sure what you do with your landscaping page and stuff on social media, but I'm sure you wouldn't post, something about like building a house probably, unless it was more targeted towards that audience or starting to slowly kind of do that, like how Chase is kind of doing that with his stuff, but he sprinkles in a little bit of like it all started with landscaping first. And then he'll sprinkle in a little business, sprinkle in a little real estate. And then I'm sure, in 5 years from now, then he'll be in a completely different, category and having the landscape probably run on his own. But I think, what you're doing is fire for sure.
Cool. No, I appreciate it. Yeah, it's one of those interesting things when you're still kind of trying to figure out, like, what you're doing. What do you like? What do you enjoy? I actually don't have a Instagram page for the landscaping.
Okay.
And I've thought about starting one. It's weird. I've had you and I sound like we've had a little bit of different relationship with social media. I've had a love-hate relationship with social media, but I would say it's mostly been hate. Like, I've kind of, up until I started this podcast thing, I basically avoided it. And it's like, it's a complicated subject, so I don't want to narrow it down to one thing. But have you seen the documentary, The Social Dilemma, by chance?
I have. And
yeah,
I agree with you a lot, bro. Like,
yeah, so, go for it, yeah.
So I was just going to say, it's like, I am right there with you. It's like, I hate, always, like, when I start talking about the views and all this stuff, like, I know people are like, this guy, that's all he cares about. And me, it's like, I'm really trying to build the business. So it's like, again, without trying to like flaunt numbers or whatever, like the free course itself has gotten over like it's almost 800 downloads. And so a lot of people are like want it, and so I really am just trying to give the value out. And I know with social media, that's how you can grow that brand. And so to be someone one day like a Joe Rogan, which is I just want to leave legacy behind. That's what like all I want. And so it's not about the views and all this, but in order for people to know who the fuck you are, like you have to have the views and the followers and all this shit. And I definitely have had the same love-hate relationship where it's like I've gone hard this whole time, but I've had so many periods like where I didn't understand switching niches or trying to switch to something else I like doing too fast that I haven't, shown other people, and dealing with, because at certain points in my life I was literally dependent on like the views were like giving me the dopamine drip and shit and making me happy, that I've gone through so many depressing phases because of social media and had to like deal with that hard lesson of like, bro, it's social media, it doesn't fucking matter. And so I've had several periods where it's just like, all right, I'm done for 3 months, I'm done for 6 months, and like I completely quit. And that's what led to some of the accounts dying as well, but I just needed the break. And again, I just know that, I can't wait to get to the point where I can honestly have like a team running my social media, so I don't have to fucking even log into it. But I know even to get to that point, it's like I have to go hard with it, But I feel you a little bit. I feel it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I would say though that the silver lining is like, my thing was, I kind of look at social media. I'm like, oh, it's so, it's so much of the content's bullshit. Like, it's just nonsense. Like, it's people, posting their ass or whatever it is, man. It's like, this is, here we are. Like, what is going? Like, just side note, but like, the Chinese version of TikTok is all like engineering videos, and then here we are in the U.S. and it's just like dancing.
People have to be smart, and here we're fucking everybody is idiots. I'm like, and that's why. This guy literally, called me a scammer for my free course. I'm like, did you even download it or read it, dude? I mean, what are you talking
Yep.
about? They're like, you're just another guru selling courses. I'm like, it's free, dog. Like, what are you talking
Yeah,
about?
like
Like,
it's free. Like,
oh my lord.
yeah. No, I
And
hear you. But like,
it's
oh,
100% just the generation we're growing up in. You know, people. That's why you know, I eventually want to have an online business, and social media has to, do that to where I can have an online business running by itself. But
hmm
everybody in our generation coming up, and especially coming up, they all just want to do the internet and the sexy stuff, And as I mentioned earlier, I don't think everybody should have to work super hard all the time for your whole life, but you definitely have to put in the fucking grind and put in your 10,000 hours. And so many people just want to fucking get rich on day trading overnight and be a millionaire, and it's just not how the world works. And so there's going to be a point where it's already becoming, like Chase has mentioned, it's already coming to the point where so many people are trying to do the internet stuff that, as the baby boomer generation is growing old, all these service-based businesses are opening up to a way bigger field, and they're just like, nobody wants to do them, so there's just going to be a lot of money over here.
no, it's huge. I mean, I just did a whole. This is kind of it's directly tied to this. I did a whole podcast on like population collapse, which is like one of these like weird subjects that like no one knows about,
Yeah.
but it's a serious thing, and it's happening like crazy in South Korea, in Japan, and most Western countries. I think it's like 70% of countries in the world are below birth replacement
I've
rate.
heard that,
So
yes, dude.
it's crazy. So I like went deep into the numbers, and if people are interested in that, go check it out. It's pretty crazy. But like what the point you just made is so true. We have we have so many young people that, or I guess we have not enough young people, I guess is the correct way to put it, that aren't taking the opportunities that are there. Like I know I have a couple friends that are like in the plumber electrician world, and all the old people are retiring, and there's no one going into it.
Yes.
So I guess the point here is like, look, man, there's the opportunity if you grab it. And I see you doing what you're doing. I see Chase doing what he's doing. I'm trying to do what I'm doing. And I'm like, and I think this is a big part of what you've said. And this is also kind of that silver lining I was going to talk about earlier for me. It's like, I don't love social media, but putting out content that I think is relevant, that I think is helpful, that I think is useful. It's like, if I'm so sick of the useless content on social media, maybe I should try and fix it. It's like one of those things where like maybe I have, maybe I can lead some people in, at least closer to the right direction. And I see you doing that with your course. And dude, there's so many opportunities if you just like reach out and take them. So I think that's huge.
That's something I'm big on too. Is it's like I really am big on things are definitely changing. So it's like the old adage of you got to go to college and do this, get a degree to make a living. It's like there's so many people that even coming up now, despite wanting to do all this internet stuff, they're still working their 9 to 5, but they're thinking college is the answer, and they're calling all of these people selling courses scams when the majority of the time they don't do their research. While there's definitely tons of people out there literally scamming people, there's also tons of people out there not. And even with real business, people will go get a down payment for a roof and never show up and do it and run off with 10 grand. It's like scams happen no matter what, not just with courses. So one, people need to get over that, but two, people need to open their mind and realize that, especially if you're wanting to do a specific business and college wants you to go learn about language arts and social studies, it's like, what does it have to do with if you wanted to start a landscaping company when you could do some research? It definitely does take a little bit of looking around and making sure you're following someone that is reputable. But you find someone like Chase, you study him, see what he's doing, see that he's trying to add value to people, and then if you really want to go into landscaping and you see what he's doing and you want to do that, then buy his course, and skip all those steps of trying to do it yourself. Like, if I would have known there was even landscaping courses out there when I started, I would have bought one. I didn't even know shit like that existed, and that was in 2017, so it's only been 6 years. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't, I don't know, but I never even thought to look, how to be better at lawn mowing. I just watched basic YouTube videos, thought I knew what I was doing, and would stop learning. So many people just need to, like, open their mind and realize there's so many different areas that you can get the knowledge you want, and it doesn't necessarily mean you need to go spend 200 grand at a college to get what you want to get to in life.
Yeah, no, I mean you're preaching to the right crowd here. Although I will fully admit I did make the error of going to college, but no, it's way more complicated than that. But I'm also an engineer, so I study engineering, and if you study engineering, it turns out that you kind of need to go study engineering to be an engineer. So 100%. There's a continuum here, of like, but you point out this excellent point. If you want to start a business or you want to do power washing or landscaping, you don't need to go get a $120,000 degree in entrepreneurship. Yeah. Like I know people, like that's a degree that you can get. And yet with YouTube University, with all of these awesome influencers like Grant Cardone and Robert Kiyosaki and Tim Ferriss and these people that like are giving out books and content effectively for free. Yep. You can bypass, like 20, 30 years ago when there wasn't the internet, going to university to learn those secrets and those skills made a lot of sense. But nowadays, you can buy that course, and you can get that. You can get that people have done the work already. You can get that shortcut, and it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but you get that knowledge for effectively free today. So I think that's huge. I really do.
2 points on that. Definitely. So if you there's definitely things like that, engineering, like you can't go build like any type of crazy building, or just so many different things revolve around engineering. Actually being like a nurse, a doctor, a lawyer, there are definitely certain things that you need to go to college for. But for sure. What you said, especially the people that are like, I'm going to go and get a business degree, and the person that's giving the degree has never owned a business. And so it's like, how can people teach you on something that they haven't done themselves, and can tell you and can give you grades on this is the right or wrong way? And I can't remember the exact person that did it, but I was listening to a podcast. It might have been on Brad Lee. He was interviewing someone, and they had a super successful business, but they decided to go to business school just to like finish it. And literally the teacher was telling them, while they're doing like millions of dollars in sales, while he's going to business school just to finish it, the teacher is telling him that's not how it works and that's not how to do things, when literally his business is doing millions in sales. And it's like, and then that's what he asked him. And so that's what he asked, pretty much anybody that ever doubts, him. The guy now is, have you ran a business, or are you running a business? And literally she said no. So it's like, how do you know then? So many people.
I was just going to say, it should be a prerequisite if you're going to teach business at a college. You got to have run a successful business.
Agreed, man. 100%. 100%. Yep.
Yeah. No, it's a crazy world, but it's a pretty cool world. And I guess that's a big part of the point that you're trying to make and I'm trying to make. Like, look, man, there's opportunities out there. And if you just reach out and you put in some work, you be strategic about it, you can go pretty far. So, any kind of like final message to people on like, trying to do junk removal or trying to start one of these things? Any kind of final things you want to hit on here?
Just the last thing would be kind of projection on where we want to be. I would love to do another podcast with you, my man. Definitely learned a lot.
For sure.
And it's fun talking to you. And as I said way earlier in the podcast, in order to scale junk removal, the easiest way, you need to either do box trucks or dump trucks, because when you have a truck and trailer, one, not everybody can even drive with a trailer. Like, you don't want people just destroying your stuff. And then secondly, backing up a trailer is extremely hard to learn. Anybody that's done landscaping or anything, you get into those tight spots or those streets where you can't turn around, and you're like, well, it's going to be a learning day today. So it takes those rough moments to really get good at backing up a trailer. And where, I'm super good at backing up a trailer. My partner is amazing at everything he does, but he can't back up the trailer. And so he's my partner, so it's like thinking about trying to scale something like that. So when it comes to scaling junk removal in general, you want everything, or any business, you want to have good SOPs, but you want them to be as simplified as possible. So anybody, of any knowledge can literally look at it and be like, okay, this is how it's done, or easily be told how it's done. And so even when you're doing junk removal, you're going to need 2 people per truck, and then the truck's going to cost, depending on if you're a box truck or dump truck, and used or new, anywhere from $15,000 to $70,000. And then to duplicate that, you need to then 4 employees, 6 employees, and it goes up. What I'm wanting to get into within the next year is get one solid location built up as far as like 1 or 2 trucks and have them automated, and then get into rentals and dumpster rentals. So I'm dropping them off, and then there's no like actual labor going into it, and you just pick them up. The only thing you're doing is driving to the location, to the landfill, and back to the location. And with dumpster rentals especially, you only need 1 employee with like a CDL driver for every 50 dumpsters. So you can have a multi-million-dollar business with 4 employees, an office manager, and 3 drivers, 150 cans, 3 trucks. So, and then you double that. Go to a different state or a different location a little further down south, where I'm in Florida. I'm up north in Daytona Beach. Get one that covers the whole north, and then add another location down south. Now you're at 2.6 with 6 employees. So you can literally have a $5-10 million business with 10 employees, and so you don't have to worry about as much turnover because they're CDL drivers. So they're going to be people that went to school to be a CDL driver, and so they're wanting a stable job. They're not the people that are jumping job to job for $15 an hour. Mm-hmm. So you do pay them more, but the margins are much larger because you have very little overhead. Dumpsters, the trucks are the biggest overhead because dumpsters are steel and heavy. So I mean, there's very little. Yep. When they rust out over years, that's your maintenance on them. For the most part, they don't get messed up. So it's a really good business model, and that's what I'm wanting to. Within a year from now, June next year, I definitely want to be fully into the dumpster and the rental game, even with trailers, enclosed trailers, renting to landscapers and construction companies, flatbeds for transportation, not just dumpsters, but all rentals. So even box trucks, like getting a fleet of box trucks and vans, the rental game, I feel like, is the way to go for me. And so I would definitely want to blow that up.
Oh, sweet, man. That's awesome. No, it's awesome to hear your, ambition and plan there. No, we should definitely do a, checkup in 6 months or a year and, reconvene and see where you're at, where I'm at, and all that good stuff. So, definitely. Hey, thanks for coming on. Where can people find you, like social media wise?
TikTok and Instagram, Logan Carnes 95. It's that username for pretty much every platform. And then if you want to show some support on my other TikTok accounts, even though I don't post on them, just type in Logan Carnes on TikTok, and then follow my junk removal page, Junkless Junk Removal. It's same on every platform. So.
Sweet. Hey, really good conversation. Thanks for coming on, Logan. Appreciate it.
Bro, thank you, Nate. Looking forward to the next one.